Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God of hosts. Orion Council here. Hold on, please. Thank you. Alright, it is time for communicating, Orion Council here. So it is wonderful to communicate again. We are very happy to discuss Ascension with you all. How are you today?
Good. Greetings. How are you?
We are very well, thank you. It has been quite some time. Channel has not channeled for some time. It is alright. Thank you. How can we be of assistance?
We have questions today.
Yes, we are ready for your questions. Thank you.
Question number 1. Would you please comment on the rise of the feminine and also the importance of the balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine at this time?
Wonderful question. At this time, there are so many differences between what you would call masculine and feminine. There are definitions for each that are very clear examples of polarity, and there are examples that are somewhat in the gray area, as you would say, because those of you who enjoy playing with concepts will say, all right, I'm going to create such a concept that one cannot polarize me into any such category. And many of you would say, Orion Council, is it necessary to use this language when we are all from the same energy? Because some of us here are trying to understand that where we come from has no language. This is not quite true, because there are many languages you have not yet begun to perceive, because these languages are languages of extra dimensionality, and they are extraterrestrial, and they are, of course, languages that heal, and they are languages that create. Once more, we discuss this concept of ascension because those of you who understand that we are multidimensional beings understand what we mean by languages you have not yet begun to perceive. So what this means is expansion taking place on many levels means multidimensionally you are experiencing who you truly are. That means that you are beginning to perceive other layers of energy, other languages, and when you are using terminology such as this or that, you are using contrast to expand your definition of reality. Many say, Orion Council, we do not need contrast because we understand what is light and what is not light. Let us simply live in the light for now. But Orion Council here, we want you to know that all is well, and in due time you will sense that you are simply enjoying the fact that you are contrasting dimensional experiences with who you truly are. So it is.
Please clarify what compassion is and how vitally important it is for us to practice, starting with compassion for ourselves and then extending it to others.
Alright, Orion Council here. Some of you are distinguishing between the idea that compassion must be practiced and the idea that it hasn't been practiced in the way that it should. So, from our perspective, you have the chance to admire beings who have mastered this compassion, and you have the chance to appreciate the compassion that you have already experienced in one life. This means that although some of you haven't quite yet understood the true vibration of compassion, many of you have accessed it, and many of you are beginning to sense your personal expansion through and without this energy. And what we want you to know is that although you would say, Orion Council, compassion is such a difficult concept, we are not at that level yet. We believe that most of you are at that level, and many of you simply are not aware of the fact that you practice this every day. You see, when you are compassionate towards your environment, you are holding a vibration of a balanced ecosystem, so to speak, and you are holding the balance of, let us say, compassionate eating habits, compassionate communication, and compassionate choice of clothing. And there are many ways you are experiencing compassion, and some of you have not quite understood. Many of you say compassion is to uplift those who are suffering because they are at a lower vibration. We say some of you suffer in different ways, and some of you utilize the energy of compassion in different ways. So our answer truly means that when you have enlightened yourselves, you are compassionate towards yourselves, and you understand where you are developing, and that awareness of your own development perhaps signals that you've begun to experience your multidimensional self. Multidimensional self understands that we are all developing in our own ways, but some of you would say, Orion Council, that is such an easy answer for a most difficult lesson. What if someone is in an argument and they are behaving in such a way that I have to defend myself? How can I be compassionate? We say that is not a lesson of compassion, friends. Friends, it is simple. You are not learning compassion in that moment. In that moment, you are learning something quite different. Become very aware of what is your lesson. And do not simply use compassion because you believe it is the right thing to do. Use it because that is your lesson at that moment. We hope we have made this answer clear. We are ready for your questions. Thank you.
Okay. We tend to think of Isis and Mother Mary in the human form, but aren't they great, vast spiritual, even galactic beings?
Indeed they are, yes. Next question. Thank you.
When somebody believes they are a higher dimensional being or even ascended master, is that they're connecting to the collective, or are they are the personification of that being?
One moment. Oh, alright. So many of you have understood that Orion Council works beside these beings known as Mary energy. We will begin to discuss this because Channel has wanted us to discuss this, for many of you resonate with this name. Many of you do not resonate with this name. Let us explain. There are many beings in this universe, and some of them have this name. There is more than one being known as Mary, but you see, they hold similar vibrations because some of them come from Central Sun, and some of them come from other planetary systems. Indeed, the one you know as Mary, who has participated in quite some events on your planet Earth, we would say this being is quite a master, and these masters are indeed holding the ability to change form. So if you were a master taking the form of a tree, then you would not recognize this as a master. So many of you simply recognize beings when they take on a very specific form, and we say these masters take on many forms. It is difficult to explain how and why this would take place. It is very let us say close to the human form that these beings have taken in their earthly experiences. And when you begin to question, is this being communicating with myself? Is it truly them, or is it an aspect of myself? That is the multidimensionality speaking and answering. In your multidimensionality, you recognize certain memory forms and you recognize certain spirit forms. So those of you who work with those energies that are in spirit form, we'd say call them masters, but those who are in physical form, call them galactic beings, as you have said. The ability to alternate between the two exists in many dimensions. However, some of these beings work on a dimensional level where you have many collective groups exchanging conscious information in non-physical form. So let us explain it this way. If you were to go to a meeting and everyone were to collect their thoughts and put their thoughts on the table, an energy master could be all of those thought forms that were placed on the table, and you'd say, Orion Council, then what is the purpose of taking a human form, and when do they do this? We would say the human form is only a part of those thought forms that have been placed on the table. This is why masters are so much greater and are creations of many beings. And so when you were to encounter one master, it would take a certain form so that you could recognize its energy. And those of you who understand the origins of the masters will understand how we are trying to explain this vast form in a language that is accessible. Thank you.
We have one more question.
Alright, we have time for another question.
Okay.
Thank you. Orion Council here.
How is it that some people can see ghosts and spaceships and others cannot? What is the difference?
Alright, some of you are sensing other dimensional beings at this time. Some of you are beginning to smell other dimensional beings at this time, and some of you are beginning to feel them. Alright, which one, why, and at what time will I experience the other? When you are in physical form, you have thoughts every day. Every day you live, you have thoughts about reality. You have manifestation ability, and you also have ability to perceive what is. And as we have said, if a master were to exist in a thought form, perhaps you would not see it next to you. So you'd say, alright universe, I require a visual because that is what makes sense to me. And you could contrast it to children who learn about reality through visuals and through singing and through playing. And sometimes children have different ways of perceiving. Thank you. And we want to come in to say that sometimes children disagree on what is the most appropriate method, and we say we want everyone to learn, so we will access information that you carry, and we will communicate with you in ways that make sense to, let us say, the part of your reality that is most exciting and most expensive for your own development. That is love, because some of you would not quite know where to place a green energy being with 12 arms and perhaps one mouth and perhaps anomalous behaviors that you have never seen in your entire life. We'd say it would be quite confusing, because you'd say this green energy being was moving 12 arms and it was speaking in dialectal frequency from the 12th solar system, and it was calling out to me in liquid energy patterns, and many of you would say that makes absolutely no sense. Work with the masters, alright? Alright, we have communicated humorously, and we are ready for your next question. Thank you.
Okay, what does the council feel in regards of the energy shifts and we're moving faster?
Alright, we'll answer your question. So, higher self, lower self, middle self. Which one is it, and how can I access the best one? In your reality, you are saying, I am a wonderful being of light, and I know this to be true, so where is my blockage? Am I doing well? Many of you are saying this, Orion Council, am I doing well according to plan? Yes, yes indeed. So Orion Council, why am I not feeling it? Alright, let's take a look here at your energy pattern. Sometimes you are quite afraid that perhaps someone forgot about your ascension. Let us explain this awareness that is coming in, which we have called multidimensional awareness. The multidimensional self is outside of time, and when you communicate with that part of yourself, what happens, friend? Please answer. Many of you are wondering, is it in alignment to speak my deepest secrets to others? And is it in my alignment to become aware that I am not quite who I thought I was? And is it in alignment to perceive things that people in my living quarters do not understand? And if I do perceive other realities, who to trust at this time? Orion Council, humans do not quite understand who you are. They do not quite understand who I am. What is happening here? Why this duality? Sometimes there are people on your planet Earth who tend to focus on obstacles, and they tend to focus on the concept of separation, and they tend to focus on the awareness of self. We'd say allow them this because when they perceive separation, they are truly asking to perceive their own multidimensionality on a different level, you'd see. Because the multidimensional self has compassion towards the learning, and so those who you'd say do not have compassion, perhaps you would assume do not have awareness of multidimensional self, but they have the awareness. Many are choosing to not focus in that way, but we say it is difficult at times because for those who pretend that they are not learning lessons, and for those who pretend that there's only singularity, and for those who believe that movement is stagnation, and you'd say, Orion Council, impossible, how could anyone perceive movement as stagnation? We'd say there are those who do, and so for these beings, they must recognize that all are accumulating energy at this time. That has been given from Creator. Accumulating energy. Orion Council, that is a wonderful news because I need energy. We'd say when you are aligning to multidimensional self, recognize you have energy to do this. You are given energy, and when you feel that you do not have energy, it is not that you are not perceiving multidimensional self, it is simply you have perhaps been focusing for some time on singularity and obstacles. So take a moment, take a vacation from your obstacles, some of you, and remember that you are receiving energy. So many of you say, Orion Council, that is such a simple answer, and we say sometimes, friends, the answer is not as complicated as you think, and at times the answer is right there in a book in front of you, and at times the answer is given to you in ways that are so simple you'd say impossible. It could not be that simple, and we say, friends, sometimes it is very simple. When a child understands an equation, the child says, oh, I get it now, I understand the equation now, I can apply it to all kinds of numbers. And we say, yes, this is what is happening. Some of the children do not understand the equation yet, so have compassion. Their multidimensional self understands it completely. We're ready for your next question. Thank you.
What is the Council's perspective on how we Starseeds and awakened people are doing in our mission or missions at this particular moment?
Alright, let us take an inventory of all starseeds on your planet Earth. This has been a very common question asked of many spiritual beings at this time. Who am I and who else is similar to myself? There is no one quite like you here. And when you begin to accept that you are quite unique, perhaps you will have compassion towards those who cannot understand what is uniqueness. And you'd say, Orion Council, who cares about uniqueness? It is not important, these labels. We have told you many times, Orion Council, that language is separation. Orion Council, it is all vibration. We'd say, we want to communicate to you in concepts, because as you begin to understand you are important at this time, you begin to understand that everybody in your life has a unique mission. And when there are many unique missions, you have a very unique planet. And when you have a very unique planet, the solar system becomes quite unique, and so on and so on. And many of you would say, Orion Council, you are quite unique. There's no other channel like you, Orion Council. How can I connect to this energy?
How can I better align myself with the Council to receive guidance?
Indeed, there are many beings here, and we want you to know that simply aligning to Orion Council is not required at this time, because there are many beings wanting to communicate with many of you, and we'd say align to those beings because they're right next to you, and some of them are trying their best to communicate information to you that was aligned with your multidimensional self. Please understand, friends, that when you begin to access other dimensional information, it is for a very specific purpose, and you must honor this process. That is all. We have time for one more question.
Okay.
Thank you.
The last question. When we are not incarnated as human beings anymore, do our souls return wholly to our star origins to become a star being, or do they experience something else?
Alright, we want to answer this question quite clearly because it means something to many of you at this time. And many of you at this time want to understand the process of reincarnating on your planet Earth. So, as we have mentioned before, there are many cycles of reality playing out their timelines, as you would say. And so you'd say, Run Council, in all of the cycles, and in the understanding that there is no time in many of these dimensions, what on earth am I going to do in my next incarnation? We'd say, let us see what you do tomorrow, and let us see what you are doing right now, because after today, you may choose something quite different for yourself in 2 weeks' time. After today, some of you decide, alright, Run Council, I'm going to propel myself to dimension number 4, and then I'm going to ask for assistance from my spirit guide, and then I'm going to communicate with my loved ones for quite some time before I decide to come back to this planet Earth. It was a difficult life. And many of you would say, Orion Council, I know that I am multidimensional, and I know that at any time I can communicate with non-physical beings. So since I'm constantly doing that, I would very much enjoy family members existing beyond this planet Earth, and I want to do it in physical form, and then I want to come back here to this planet Earth again, and I don't want to reincarnate. And Source says, alright, you can do it that way because you are creator, but at the same time you have many loved ones with you who say, what about this option over here, because you have so many options. Haven't you ever experienced positioning yourself in such a way that you could communicate with your loved ones and live in physical reality? Some of you are so concerned with transition from physicality to another form. We say, please understand that it is most important to honor this physicality, because when you are beyond physicality, it is so enjoyable that many of you decide not to become physical for a long time. And we say, it is very important that you are physical at this time. So for those of you who are wanting to know, in the 5th dimension am I non-physical? You are very physical in 5th dimension, but you are in 5th dimension. So the rules are different in 5th dimension. many of you believe, all right, I'm going to reincarnate into fifth dimension for ascension. And we say there is a very, very strict process for ascension for this planet Earth. And it is not something that was decided overnight, you could say. Although you would say choice points determine reality experiences in 2 weeks' time, we are saying that for ascension of an entire planet, it is a very, very strict process. Just as a graduation has its process, you have a process of aligning to new reality rules. And we say the rules are fun when they are coming from fifth dimension. The rules are quite exciting. And we say there is communication with non-physical, and perhaps there is something more that we cannot explain to you because we would break the rules. We are finished for today. We love you, so it is.